Welcome back to the Joe Miller Show, KON Hot Talk, 1080 AM, 95.1 FM. We have Dr. Zmirak online. He is an editor for The Stream, prolific writer. We've had him on the show before. He was press secretary for governor in Louisiana. John, you're on the air. Appreciate you agreeing to come on. We're going to talk a little bit about this third undercover video on Planned Parenthood. And you wrote a story on The Stream. We're going to put that up on joemiller.us later today. Hopefully get the podcast up with it. You've entitled, Outrage is Insufficient. I just kind of introduced this third video a little bit in the first segment, talking about how we've got a sequence of videos. The New York Times suggested that after the second one will be 10 more videos. I don't know if we've got an official number on it, but it seems like each of these videos just ratchets up the outrage, or at least should ratchet up the outrage if you're a person that has a conscience. Can you tell our audience just a little bit about this third video, how long it is, what it documents? Just give us a little background before we get into the nitty-gritty about how we ought to react to it.
Yeah, the third video goes a little bit further, and it's a little harder to watch. It actually shows you Planned Parenthood employees holding out baby parts on a platter, almost like at a buffet, and picking up individual baby parts and holding them up with tweezers and talking about what price they'll be able to get for them. And then it includes a powerful interview with a former clinic worker who thought she was getting a job drawing blood and had no idea that it was going to be her job to pick through the remains of aborted babies to provide profitable organs for tissue companies who were providing thousands of dollars to Planned Parenthood. And she talked about how she fainted the first time she did the job, and how the other employees said, "Oh yeah, we all fainted too. That's just what happens. It's just part of getting used to it." That this job was so horrifying. It's like frontline combat duty. Now, my sister's a nurse, and she works in the maternity ward, and she's had to deliver children who are stillborn. She's actually had to photograph them for their parents, like it's the only record they have of their child who was tragically born dead. But she never fainted. She never felt profoundly troubled in her conscience, because she worked at a Christian hospital where they preserve innocent life. But Planned Parenthood is a place where innocent life means nothing, where it's simply a means to an end to produce a certain income stream from companies that want to use human beings, tiny human beings' organs for profit.
The most innocent among us being sacrificed for dollar. And, you know, the thing is, Planned Parenthood has, for the first video, attacked the messenger, said, hey, you know, these guys came to us in false pretense, never really addressed the substance of what was presented. No. The second one, they continue the same obfuscation that they did the first time. Has there been any response to this third video yet from Planned Parenthood?
The third video, they actually hired a crisis management PR agency that sent out a cease and desist letter to TV stations, warning them that they could face legal action if they broadcast the footage because it was allegedly obtained illegally. So they're actually trying to frighten the media. If there are any media who are sympathetic to just being honest about this attack on innocent life, they're trying to provide an additional argument. Not only are we appealing to your pro-choice sympathies, those of you who are not pro-choice, we might sue you. And Planned Parenthood is an enormous, powerful, and rich organization. It gets $500 million a year from the taxpayers, and it gets tens of millions of dollars from major corporations like Starbucks. I'm happy to say that Coca-Cola has cut off its support to Planned Parenthood, so has Ford Motor Company, but that's just the beginning.
We put up the 41 corporate sponsor list that apparently was derived from Planned Parenthood's website. After that, there were lots of protests. In fact, it wasn't just Coca-Cola, it wasn't just Ford, it was also Zmirak, apparently, that complained, saying, hey, that list is not accurate. And we put up an article later that basically criticized those companies, saying, hey, look, if you don't like what Planned Parenthood is saying about who's sponsoring them, go sue them. Don't complain about articles being, providing misinformation. What's the real deal? Was Coca-Cola, was Zmirak, was Ford, were they really providing funding to Planned Parenthood, but they've just decided now to stop?
I think that's true of Coca-Cola. That's the only one I'm absolutely sure about, because I haven't been focusing on this aspect of the story.
Right. Well, I mean, it is something, of course, this needs to be a full court press in order to basically undercut the legitimacy of Planned Parenthood, stop its funding, hopefully completely put them out of business. I mean, I have hopes that these sequence of videos, because my guess is they're going to get even worse. I don't know how they could get any worse than this third one, but the folk that did this investigative work, I mean, kudos to them. I mean, they certainly saw as the end game taking Planned Parenthood down. Who are these folk that did the videos, and do you expect worse to come?
I think that these people are very media savvy. They show what the New Testament called the wisdom of serpents, and they're playing the game the right way. They, instead of putting all the information in one video, they are dragging it out the way Watergate dragged out. It took months for the truth to come out about Watergate. That's how you make a story last. If you want a story to succeed, you give the information out piece at a time in digestible bites, and you keep people in a certain amount of suspense for what's coming next. And I think there might be another one coming out tomorrow, and I don't really want to watch it. I imagine that it's going to continue to get worse. It is hard to imagine how it would get much worse. In my most recent piece that I wrote for the stream.org, I talked about how my father served under General Patton in Germany in 1945. And when General Patton liberated his first concentration camp, he was so appalled, he was so outraged that he was tempted to go start shooting German civilians. He didn't. He got control of himself. And what he did was he went over and grabbed the mayor and the town priests, the pastors, and the leading citizens, and he gathered all the citizens of the town, and he marched them through the concentration camp and made them look at what their Fuhrer, who they'd voted into office in 1933, what he had been doing to Jews and gypsies and innocent people. My father was there, and he saw all this. I think what the Center for Medical Progress is doing is they are doing to the American media precisely what General Patton did to German civilians. They're making them march through what Planned Parenthood is doing and what the abortion culture is doing to the respect for life in America.
Well, I got to tell you, they're doing an effective job. The hope is that we can get this out to enough people that they can actually have the impact necessary. Now, I think already you can see some political impact from this. In fact, there was an effort to defund Planned Parenthood in the Senate. It got shot down, and then very shortly after that, McConnell said, oh, no, we are going to have a vote on defunding Planned Parenthood, which means that he's starting to feel some pressure, at least, from the outrage that's been created in the grassroots by these videos.
Oh, that's right. I mean, he's now talking about investigating Planned Parenthood, and I think investigation is needed. I think another thing we need to do is, when we get a Republican president, while we have a Democratic president, not much good is going to happen. But we need to make sure that Republican candidates who are vying for our votes pledge not just to defund Planned Parenthood, but to remove its nonprofit status. I mean, think about this. The Obama Solicitor General, the Obama administration wants to take away the tax-exempt status of Christian churches and Orthodox Jewish congregations that won't do same-sex marriages. So they are politicizing the nonprofit status. Okay, fine, it's politicized. Let's take away the nonprofit status of this multi-billion-dollar abortion business that profiteers in human organs. I think that should be a political no-brainer.
I had a supporter email me a link from Planned Parenthood yesterday or the day before, and basically it's a hit page on crisis pregnancy centers. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't, but I know a lot about crisis pregnancy centers.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, they're phenomenal. I mean, they're volunteer staff for the most part. Yeah. I mean, it's, people of faith generally, or just pro-life people getting together to offer support to women that are in need because of pregnancy. They offer a wonderful alternative to abortion. So this page on Planned Parenthood, it's just all deceit. It's all designed to basically, characterize crisis pregnancy centers as, practicing medicine unethically and, doing things to deceive women into having their babies as opposed to abortion, saying things that aren't true about the emotional consequences of abortion. And it's just one lie after another. And looking at, something that I personally know about, I've sat on a board of a crisis pregnancy center here in the state of Alaska. I know what they do. It lets you know basically their whole approach. It's all about deceit. John, I don't know whether I can keep you on for another segment or not. This is an important subject.
Yes.
Can we keep you on, or do you need to go?
Yes.
Okay, great.
No,
we'll keep you on, Dr. Zmirak. We'll be right back with you on the Joe Miller Show talking more about this third Planned Parenthood video. Welcome back to the Joe Miller Show, KOAN Hot Talk, 1080 AM, 95.1 FM. We're honored to have with us still Dr. John Zmirak. He is an activist, pro-life, prolific writer, editor at thestream.org, been a press secretary for pro-life governor in Louisiana. Very insightful on a number of different topics, currently writing on these Planned Parenthood videos that are coming out. The third one came out yesterday, absolutely horrific. John wrote an article, The Third Undercover Video, Planned Parenthood, Outrage is Insufficient. We'll have up on restoringliberty.com later today, hopefully along with the podcast. John, thank you for staying with us on the Joe Miller Show and talking about this critical subject.
Thank you.
So one of the things we're talking about during the break is kind of the origins of Planned Parenthood, and we've talked about this a little bit on this show, but of course it's something that is worthy of reminding people that these horrific videos that have come out, especially this last one that actually shows employees of Planned Parenthood putting body parts on a platter and basically monetizing them, talking about their value and trying to sell them. This organization was started by racists, right?
That's right. It was founded by Margaret Sanger, who was a white supremacist eugenicist who believed that the human race needed to be scientifically managed, that the way to organize social improvement was to make sure that the best kind of people were allowed to have children and other people were prevented from having children. And she defined who the best kind of people were based on race. Northern European whites, for her, were the highest race, and Southern European whites, blacks, Asians, Hispanics, Eastern Europeans, even Irish, she regarded as genetically inferior. And she was active in trying to keep such people out of the country. I learned recently that she lobbied to stop victims of the Holocaust, Jewish victims of the Holocaust fleeing Nazi Germany. She lobbied to keep them from finding refuge in America. And some of them actually were sent back to Germany and died in concentration camps because people like Margaret Sanger helped turn them away. She helped promote sterilization laws in 13 states where Americans who failed these primitive, culturally biased IQ tests they had at the time would be subject to mandatory sterilization or castration. 13 American states. Those laws that she passed were taken as a model by Nazi Germany in their own eugenics program, and Margaret Sanger's close associate, Harry Laughlin, was actually flown to Germany and given an honorary degree by the Nazi government and given credit for helping them create their own eugenics program, which of course resulted in the death of more than 100,000 people. It was the beginning of the Holocaust. Planned Parenthood was, in 1936, I believe, Margaret Sanger promoted something called the American Baby Code, whereby she wanted the federal government to impose restrictions on every American family that everyone who wanted to have a child would need to apply for a license. And the government would have to determine their fitness as parents and grant them a one-time license for childbearing, which was non-renewable. So every American family would need to get permission from the government for each child they wanted to have. This is Planned Parenthood. It was a totalitarian, fascist, racist organization that talked about eliminating the black population. Margaret Sanger specifically set up birth control clinics in black neighborhoods, and we have correspondence of her. If you look up Margaret Sanger and racism, and you will find 36 pages of quotes. The most infamous is where
John,
she said, sorry?
Yeah, go ahead and finish up with that.
We don't want the word to get out that we want to exterminate the black population.
I got to tell you, this is one of these contradictions in contemporary culture that is just not comprehensible. The left still champions her. as a heroine, as somebody that is a leader, somebody that ought to be looked up to. In fact, I read something the other day that actually championed Margaret Sanger. How can they do that, given this historical factual evidence?
I think that it's selective forgetting. I mean, remember the left was able to champion Stalin at one point. The left championed Fidel Castro. Look at those people wearing Che Guevara T-shirts. We know Che Guevara was a murderer, a terrorist.
And yet the left is tearing down our founders. I mean, George Washington, he owned slaves, so therefore, we should no longer see him in a positive light. And, of course, this whole Confederacy thing. It's just, it is amazing. I mean, truth becomes a lie and vice versa. But getting back to this critical point, though, Planned Parenthood, third video out, horrific content, something that we all need to be aware of. Again, I've recommended that people on this program that have weak stomachs, you probably don't want to watch the video, but you need to know about it. And I really do think people need to confront it, too, because if you don't know what's going on in culture, you aren't going to be able to address it with the outrage that you need to actually get this taken care of. Next steps, we've got about 5 minutes left. What should we do to put the nail in the coffin of Planned Parenthood, or do you think that's even possible?
I think it's possible. I think we need to make defunding Planned Parenthood, zeroing it out, a non-negotiable litmus test for any Republican nominee. If they're just like no Republican nominee, rightly, could get away with saying he wants to cut all aid to Israel, no Republican nominee should be able to get away with offering one dime to Planned Parenthood. That should be a non-negotiable issue. We need to make that part of Republican orthodoxy. Yeah.
On that issue, John, where are the candidates? Do we know if there's anybody that is not supportive of that, or has that really even been a question that's been asked?
I don't think Jeb Bush has made a clear stand, and his grandfather, Prescott Bush, actually was president of Planned Parenthood of Connecticut. So I think that family has a mixed record on this, and I would like to hear a very clear stand from Governor Bush on that.
Barbara Bush was also a little ambiguous on the whole thing. Go ahead with Ted Cruz.
That's right. Ted Cruz has been solid on this. Scott Walker's been solid on this. Carly Fiorina, Rand Paul. I mean, they're falling into line. We're doing our job of making opposition to Planned Parenthood a non-negotiable issue for Republicans, and I think it needs to be seen as a winning issue.
Second step,
once we elect a Republican president and defund Planned Parenthood, we need to take away their tax-exempt status, and we need to investigate them for felony organ trafficking.
Yeah, now, McConnell's actually made a statement suggesting that he may be involved in that kind of investigation. Anybody on the House that's also suggested that they'll use their powers to investigate?
I think there are, but I'm sorry, I haven't followed that part of it, so I don't have their names, but I want to thank them for their effort.
Sure. Well, there are a lot of hardcore pro-lifers in the House. In the Senate, of course, there are some, but the numbers, those that are really out there willing to put everything on the line for life, is a pretty limited number. Do you think McConnell's serious?
Right. I think he's felt the pressure. I think Ted Cruz made him feel the pain, and I hope he's serious. I really do. I think the fact that Rand Paul, who is his junior senator from the same state, is very strong on this issue, I think he's taking that seriously. And I think he's begun to see that for millions of Americans, this is a very serious issue. I was at an event last night with a few members of the Wall Street Journal editorial board, and they couldn't believe that there are Americans out there who consider the Planned Parenthood issue to be as important as the Export-Import Bank. They just looked at me like I was crazy, and I said, no, you have no idea. We don't care about the Export-Import Bank. We don't care if it all collapses. If our government is supporting people who traffic in the murdered parts of human beings, yes, that is more important to us. And you need to realize that we are your political base. And if you want our support,
John,
if you want us stuffing envelopes and voting, you need to take that seriously.
John, I'm so glad you brought that up. I was thinking that exact same thing when the all holds basically the total effort that was put forward to stop the reauthorization of the Export-Import Bank. I thought to myself, if only they would put that kind of effort toward pro-life causes, defunding Planned Parenthood, or even for that matter, defunding of Obamacare. It's right. Really, to me, it's confounding, but it's also reflective of the fact that many of those that we elect that use the rhetoric to get our vote, they really aren't at their core serious about the things that make us tick, that are important to us. And I think it's something that they need to understand, that this is a critical issue, and if they don't act on it, they won't get our vote. It's got to be non-negotiable. I agree with you.
I said to them, you want us to not show up like we didn't show up for Romney? We can guarantee you never win an election again. And the Democrats will raise your taxes. The Democrats will regulate the economy. You're not going to get your economic libertarian agenda, which I think is a good thing. We're not going to give it to you if you don't give us the social issues. We just don't care. We're at the point things are this bad that it's time for Samson to pull down the temple. And if you don't get the Christian right, the most basic things, then we're not going to help you on economic issues.
Precisely right. The fact of it is that we'll sit back again and not vote if we get another Romney, if we get another McCain. Whoever ends up with the nomination has to be serious about it. If they aren't, the problem is, John, is that we've seen what happens under Republican administrations. It's more of the same, maybe not as fast as the Obama administration, but we're done being cheated of our vote. John, I appreciate you coming on. We'll definitely have you back to talk about the next Planned Parenthood video if you have time. Always appreciate your insights, Dr. John Zmirak, editor of Stream.org. We'll try to get up that podcast from today, the first segment, if you missed it, later this evening, along with his article. Stay with us. Joe Miller Show, back after this.